Episode 3. This is no longer a coincidence anymore. They didn't think we'd make it to episode 3. That's a slogan for another show. Welcome back to Kinda Stubborn. Happy to have you. Happy to be here. Thanks everyone who's been subscribing, following along, and what have you. Today, we're talking about the imaginary elephant in the room that's like not really an elephant in the room. That's been going around for the past 2 or 3 years. I've seen some comments about it. There's others discussion about it. So I figured I would kind of consolidate the information and kind of add a little bit of my context as well as just like a bunch of behind the scenes stuff and blah, blah. This is not an expose. I want to be clear on that. This is not an expose. Not however, period. Can you tell I'm sweaty? Whew, okay. First of all, this all leads in, I promise. I went golfing this weekend. Fun time, good time. Probably played the best. I averaged like 3 games of golf a year. Probably played the best I ever had with my 2 buddies. Shout out Dan and Matt. And like I said, I played solid. Thank you for asking. Hold on. Thank you. And we're on the course, a few holes in, and this other group drives by us in their carts. And there's a girl in the passenger seat, and she sees me, and she gives me a Lumberlend, and I was a little caught off guard. I was like, "Huh?" She goes, "Lumberlend, woo!" And I never know what to say. That happens every now and again. Not that exact specific situation on a golf course with a girl on the side of a golf cart flying by. So I just kind of gave her a little bit, which is funny because in actuality, a lot of bit is the actual case. So anyway, I get that every now and again, and it's great. I want to be clear about that. It's great every single time. I'm not making a comment about, the girl saying it. It's cool that the girl said it. I love getting Lumberland shout-outs. It was a great time in my life. As well as when I get Stash Club shout-outs. It's always a good time. But what's interesting is it's been like, I don't know, 2+ years since the company went under. I would say 3 years since we were at the height of stuff, and like still getting Lumberland recognition in public like that is still wild. So like I said, that kind of lends to today's episode. What happened to Lumberland? I'm going to get that cleaner for, obvious reasons, but hell of a title. Huh? Hell of a title. Where do we start? Again, I want to reiterate, this is me kind of consolidating on the business side. This is me consolidating public information, just kind of putting it into one place in kind of a story form. So it's, you can kind of get what happened. All right, I guess let's just get into it. Here's the clean take for social media. What happened to Lumberland? Boom, that was pretty good, huh? So, I have notes for days here. I have, holy shit, 4 pages of notes. Jesus Christ. All right. First of all, again, all of this information on the business side of things is public knowledge. Someone from the now owner of Lumberland, which is Dugout Mugs, someone from their company. I don't think they're the owner, but someone from their company made a public video on their TikTok page kind of explaining the business happenings and a little bit of the history and things like that. So a lot of that business and the purchase and the thing and the this is all based on that video that was made public. This discussion, this podcast, is neither a comment nor a diss towards anyone involved, and that includes past and present Lumberland owners and employees, any former employees of Lumberland, and anyone from Dugout Mugs. I need to make this very clear that the Dugout Mugs' purchasing of Lumberland didn't have anything to do with the end of the media team or us losing our jobs or anything. It's such a separate thing, and we'll talk about it, why it's separate, but it has nothing to do with it. So, I don't want this to be not that there be any reason for it to be, but, this isn't Dugout Mugs ended it or whatever. And I know they've been, starting to use some of the channels that they bought, which is why wouldn't they? They bought 2 pretty popular YouTube channels and TikTok accounts. Why wouldn't they use it under their company? They own it. yeah, if you don't want to watch it, then I don't know. Don't watch it. If you don't like baseball, no one's forcing you to watch baseball content. As I was for 3 years. Kidding. Okay. So, the short answer to the question, what happened to Lumberlend, is business decision. I know it's the boring answer. The company wasn't profitable on the media team side of things, especially on the media team side of things, as well as just, on the side of the product business that they sold. So I know this is a lot. Like I said, I have a lot of notes here, so a lot of this is just me kind of reading. I like the podcast being more of a discussion, loose flowing base, but like just so I don't mess anything up, I'm just trying to get things kind of how I wrote it. Like I kind of hinted at, the media team of the two kind of sides of the company, one being the baseball memorabilia and two being the media company. Media team, let me tell you, was the least profitable, and I would argue the opposite of profitable most of the time. So that's why we were let go first. Lumberlend kind of went on with whatever legs it had for, I don't know, I think maybe like a few weeks or a month before, the purchase, which we'll get into. But ultimately, it's as boring as just it wasn't making enough money to be sustainable, and it got bought out. But there's a story about who bought it out. And again, that story is also told by Dugout Mugs publicly. So, but like I said, I'm here to kind of consolidate information, kind of tell it with my voice. So, on the Bat Mug side of things, even though I said with my voice, on the Bat Mug side of things, I can't really offer much else besides what is public knowledge because I was on the media team, and to maybe a fault to the company, maybe not. I don't really have an opinion on that. That baseball memorabilia product side rarely had anything to do with the content we were putting out. So, and even like not even the content we're putting out, like we just had nothing to do with like the sales. Sometimes we put like promotions in the videos, like obviously, but I didn't know what sort of business they were doing. I didn't know what deals they had. I was full media team. My title by the end of that was YouTube manager, and we'll get to kind of how silly those titles were. And I appreciate the titles, but they were a little silly considering there was 5 of us. So yeah, and honestly, my personal opinion on like the business outside of the media team, I don't super care. I was never as basic as it is. I'm not even a baseball guy, so I never had an interest in the product. Of course, I want it to be profitable, and I wanted to help in any way I could as a part of the company. But like at the end of the day, that's the business side, and I was on media team. I was editing silly wrestling videos. You know what I mean? So it's like I didn't have a whole lot of stake in the, well, I did because I lost my job, but you know what I'm trying to get at. Okay. Is it hot in here? So, all right, here's the tea. Apparently, in around 2014 to 2016, the then, or who would be famously the owner of Lumberlend and who owns Dugout Mugs, started a bat mug company, like I said, in 2014, 2016. And that company was Lumberlend. There's some disagreements I don't really know about. No one really knows, but besides people who are like, it's business. I think people get things misconstrued and forget that, like, at the end of the day, this was a business that sold a product that like attempted to make a media portion of their company. So things like, owners disagreeing and people parting ways and new companies being founded is all just like such a normal and regular part of business that I think this doesn't get a spotlight on it because of the situation that Lumberlend was in with like, 2 point whatever million followers. But anyway, so they started it, parted ways. One kept Lumberlend, the other started their own company. Again, all public information, but they parted ways. There was some legal stuff that happened. I think there's a public lawsuit that kind of went down. Again, public documents are available. Not really going to talk about that because ultimately I don't care. But it's interesting. Maybe I'm being more chalant than I need to be, but I do think the business side of things is interesting. But it's like I do want to just get to like where I want to get to the part that I'm involved in. So anyway, they parted ways. Dugout Mugs and Lumberlend at that point were offering similar products. Lawsuit, legal stuff happened, whatever. And as business goes, like I said, different business moves were made, and one company just was more successful than the other, and competition's competition. One struggled to keep up. I don't believe that was the reason for the creation of the media team. I think it was definitely maybe a part of it in terms of like, oh, let's try to have like 2 big channels of income, as any business would want. I think the start of the media team was they had big personalities at the time. Obviously, the most notable was Big Nick, and Casey was there at the time. And I think, and this is kind of just my opinion and my thoughts on the early days of it when I wasn't there before pre-John. I was gonna make a BC joke. Oh, that'd be BJ. Okay, so I think they just started making content because it was in 2020, 2021. We're in the middle of the pandemic. Internet culture took a big shift. There was so many changes in terms of just like online content in general. And at a time where everyone was doing stuff virtually, Lumberlend got to a point where they could be in person again. And they just started making content. And, I think Casey was just filming Big Nick and putting it online. He was just like a big personality. So especially at a time where like there's not a whole lot of content like that to consume. Again, we're talking about like mid-pandemic. No one's making in-person content. Like content, and it's the same thing with like television and movies. Like everything, media and entertainment stopped. And Lumberlend was one of the only ones kind of offering that. That might be kind of a hyperbole to say, but you get what I mean. So I think they just grew like that. And in the early days, they grew off of Big Nick. And also him and Casey's relationship, which I'll talk about kind of Casey's contribution later. And also I want to be clear, I'm not talking for anyone. This is all me. So like, I might be talking about different characters here, but I'm not really speaking on anyone's behalf or anything like that. But I do realize I'm mentioning names. So like, I feel like that was important to make clear. So I think that was the start of it. And I think like, as you grow, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, we're at 500,000 followers. Oh, we can make something of this. So I think it was just capitalizing off an opportunity that they kind of like, I don't want to say it wasn't on purpose, but like I would be surprised to hear if in 2019, 2020, they were like, oh, we're going to have a famous TikTok page where we play silly games. You know what I mean? So I think that was the start of it. And then obviously as the media team grew, or as the media grew in general, the media team grew. Sorry, read my notes here. Blah, 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 media team. Okay, sorry. Back to the business kind of side of things with Dugout Mugs. So in 2021, like I said, we're all let go. Lumberlend was kind of on its last legs, and again, business is business, not sustainable, whatever. Dugout Mugs, again, the former, owner, co-creator in the split and whatever, Dugout Mugs, and I put this for the wrestling fans, Dugout Mugs buys their competition a la Vince McMahon buying WCW. Not the exact same thing, but like in terms of like the co-owner and, parts ways with his original company for whatever. I know WCW wasn't the original company, but it's like that's where it strays. One owner, co-founder, part ways with the company, stuff happens, whatever, and then in a weird roundabout way, they, in what I think is honestly a pretty generous move of Dugout Mugs, purchased Lumberlend and got all the business whatevers back, as well as all the IP and media channels or whatever. So when Dugout Mugs bought Lumberland, they bought the Lumberland YouTube channel. They bought all like whatever it was, 4 or 5 of the TikTok accounts, including Lumberland Sports, Snack Time, as well as Mustache Bros. So yeah, they owned all of that. Blah blah blah. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay. So that's kind of the business side of things. That's kind of the nitty gritty. Again, this was all information, public information by Dugout Mugs that I'm kind of just, consolidating and whatever. All right, here we are at the media team. Again, I kind of spoiled it at the beginning, but it's the same thing with the media team as it was with the regular business, is that it just wasn't profitable and sustainable, especially when you're, I saw the numbers. I saw the YouTube numbers from both channels, and with the amount of people we had on the media team, and we're all getting paid full-time salaries, it just wasn't, I don't know, maybe not thought about with too much longevity in mind, or sustainability for longevity, if that makes sense. I don't know. Like I said, blatantly, this wasn't super profitable. Now, why, you ask? Okay. Now we can chat. Why. Toward the end there, the last couple months, I will say, the YouTube channel was doing good and Mustache Bros were doing good. I think if all of that, kind of process in the order of things I want to say in real time, but I think if we saw the success we were on YouTube like a year or even half a year before things ended, I think I don't know. I'm for this whole thing, I'm not going to sit here and say definitively like things would have been different or things would have, Lumberland would still be around today. Like, I'm not going to say anything like that. But things would have been maybe different, especially looking at as someone who runs the Stash Club account, brand, whatever. I'm in charge of the YouTube channel, so I see all like the, I produce it, film, edit it. I'm not saying that take away from anyone else. I'm just saying that's the credibility I kind of have looking at all these different YouTube channels and seeing like what is profitable and what isn't and what worked and what didn't. So if given the time, Mustache Bros would have looked like what Stash Club does today. And we could have tried to replicate that. Like, I think we only got 10 podcast episodes deep into Mustache Bros. The Mustache Bros channel was only 3 months old, and it was doing great. It really was. It was making the same that the main YouTube channel was. And at that time, I think the Mustache Bros YouTube channel had 35,000 followers, and the main Lumberland channel had 125. Now, that also kind of is where a little bit of the problem lied. Or not problem, but like, I don't know, different disagreements and whatnot. But it got to a point where the wrestling videos were the most popular on the Lumberland YouTube channel. Nobody was watching anything else. Snack Time, the vlogs. Every now and again, there'd be like an outlier video that would pop off, and that's finally. I remember there was a time in the office where Joey had this kind of like, oh, of fucking course, why aren't we doing this? Because our whole brand on TikTok was like games and silly like trivia and things like that. And we just never thought to try to replicate that on YouTube, which I think was a big mistake at the beginning on all of our parts, because we're like, there was a time where we had like 2 million followers on TikTok and we had well under 100,000 on YouTube. And a YouTube subscriber is a lot more valuable than a TikTok follower. Like 2 million TikTok followers does not equal even 1 million YouTube subscribers, but 2 million to less than 100,000 is too much of a gap or whatever. So finally, there was a light bulb that went off in the office, and like I said, I remember there was Joey, a light bulb of like, oh, we should start producing the same sort of popular content on TikTok for YouTube. And there was a moment where Joey's light bulbs went off and he was like, why the fuck have we been doing that the whole time? like it was kind of a light bulb for the whole office of like, oh, that's what we needed. Because we were trying everything. Vlogs that no one gave a shit about, like different stuff. And I want to say that sounds harsh, but that's no credit to the people that worked on them. I think the vlogs are so underrated. What was that called? Mugshots. Creative name. Really, really good stuff. Funny vlog stuff. I think maybe just like the thumbnails and the titles were a miss. But other than that, most of the content that wasn't the wrestling stuff on the YouTube channel, pre and post decision to start making like gamified content was good. It just never clicked. Like I said, the wrestling stuff kind of started to really kick off, and it was the outlier. It was the only thing it was the only videos that were really making money and that were actually popular and there were actually people watching it. So with all those wrestling videos, that main Lumberlend channel is going to be flooded with wrestling fans. And all those subscribers are going to be wrestling fans, not baseball fans, not fans of Big Nick, not fans of, I don't know, the other guys in the vlogs, or, can you name all the baseball players named Kyle? You know what I mean? Like, so it was hard to bring an audience into other stuff. And there was a decision that was made. And this is one I can kind of say I disagree with. I didn't push too hard on it, but there was a moment where it was clear that, like, oh, the Lumberlend YouTube channel is basically a wrestling channel. There were people constantly in the comments of just being like, what in the world is Lumberlend? I'm here for the wrestling stuff. Who are the rest of these people? We subscribe because there's a wrestling video that averages like 100,000 views that we get a week, and we put everything else out and we get like 5,000 views. So there was a decision to be made at one point that we got suggested that, oh, should we make the Lumberlend channel a wrestling channel? And should we make a second? Either way, we're going to make a second channel. The decision was to make the second channel the new wrestling channel and move the content over there, or make the main Lumberlend channel a wrestling channel and then make a new channel for the offshoot stuff. I think that would have been the best decision. You already have what is now a majority of 125,000 subscribers in one place, and now you're just dividing it. And like Mustache Bros, none of those videos got as many views as the Sunday one video a week wrestling video we were posting on the Lumberlend channel. Also, I think, at that point, then you're splitting content, because we're still like putting one wrestling video on the Lumberlend channel, so the Lumberlend channel would be profitable, or not profitable, but have a stream of revenue coming in. And then you have 3 other wrestling videos on this other channel somewhere else that you're not even really sure if it's affiliated, if you're a really outsider looking in. Ultimately, and I get this decision. There was a vision from the get-go, from what I imagined when they started the media team, whatever, in 2019, 2020. There was a vision of Lumberland's going to be this, so I fully get the decision to not want to be like, oh, this channel we built as Lumberlend, I get why you wouldn't want to all of a sudden change that whole channel to Mustache Bros Wrestling or Lumberlend Wrestling or like whatever. From a business standpoint, though, I think that was a miss. But, and like I said, that's not a personal thing. That's just a business decision, a business relationship, coworker sort of discussion. Again, kind of toward the end of its life, we were starting to get brand deals, and that would have helped. Again, a lot of this is like too little too late. We're like, the YouTube channel started really picking up, started getting brand deals. We did merch drops that we're fine. I don't think any of them were executed super well. Again, no one knew the company, the business people knew e-commerce. No one just knew clothing. And I tried my darndest to give my 2 cents, but Mustache Bros stuff always kind of sold out, though. Am I coming off? Why do I feel like I come off salty? I'm not. I think I'm just trying to be funny. Mustache Bros merch did sell out, though. Okay, I'm scattered with my notes here. That mustache. My one regret is I wish we didn't make that Mustache Bros shirt like acid blue. It's like such a bright blue. It was kind of the color scheme we did with the channel. I think the Sophie and I his story doesn't matter, but me and Sophie kind of helped design the first shirt. Did we do any other merch for that? I don't remember. I don't know if we had time. So yeah, it was different stuff, and I think the merch is an example of like, we never found the groove with the Lumberlend audience. There was always kind of a disconnect between like the content and the content on TikTok versus the content on YouTube versus merch and products we were promoting and the actual product and blah, blah, blah. Important to note. Obviously, there were definitely efforts. Kind of goes what I was saying with the disconnect. There were efforts to include. Come on, I want to get into more fun stuff. Sorry, there's just so many notes here. There were of course efforts to include the bat mug. That's one big criticism that I see a lot. Is like, well, they had 2 million followers and blah blah subscribers. How come they didn't promote the product in the videos? No, we tried. No one cared. The TikTok with 2.5 or 2.4 million followers liked hearing, can you name every movie that Matt Damon was in that starts with the letter T? You know, like they liked shit like that. Or start bench cut. Derek Jeter, fucking Larry Bird, LeBron James. They like stuff like that. That doesn't really translate to just a product purchase, you know, like, and I think that's why like the Lumberlend Sports channel was created, because the main channel really kind of got away from sports. And as the media team grew, there was just kind of a cultural difference of the media team versus like the team downstairs with the bat mugs. In terms of just like internet culture, and we're a little younger, so like jokes were different. I, working for a sports company, wasn't and am not like a real sports guy. So every time I would get asked like a sports question, I would either lie, or what I ended up doing was just saying wrestling answers or saying something silly or, you know, whatever. I forget the point in that was, but yeah, so there wasn't an immediate, like, it is the company's dream. And I think this was a big goal of the company. It's like, oh, we're going to grow our following, and we're going to grow our following huge. So we don't even have to pay for promo. We have a TikTok channel with 2.5 million followers that we own, that we can promote anything we want. I think that was part of the goal, and they were successful in growing that channel. However, when it came time to promote the product, I just think if Lumberlend made like baseball content, which is what it did absolutely at the beginning, but it really just diverse. I'm not even saying this is like a good or a bad thing, but I think if they made baseball content, obviously they would have had a better chance at selling their baseball product in their videos. You know what I mean? It's just tough when it's like one video is like, I'm doing too many examples, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, I fully get. Yep. Wow, I'm nailing my notes here. I'm going in order here. I already kind of mentioned other content on Lumber Channel never hitting. All right, I want to. Speaking of, this is such a long-winded answer. I feel like I already answered it. Now we're just kind of in the part of like the details and why things didn't work, which I think is interesting. But like, I guess this is all the answer. This whole episode is going to be about this. So, to give an example of a piece of content that I think was really, really great, and I want to give the person behind it their flowers, and the piece of content their flowers. And also, this is whatever. Stop trying to precursor everything. So, Johnny spearheaded this candlepin bowling video series, and he did everything from, he produced it, he wrote it, edited it, directed it. He did everything, and it was good. We went down to like a candlepin bowling lane, had an actual tournament, filmed it. We had like 3 or 4 different shots, and Johnny even ended up doing a voiceover for it. He edited it in this really like cool retro style. He nailed it. But unfortunately, it's just one of those examples that it never hit with the audience. It never connected. The audience didn't care. The audience didn't watch it. No one watched it. And again, that's not a credit. That's not a discredit anywhere because like the thumbnails, the look, the editing, the planning, like everything was really good. It's one of my favorite like mini series that we did and like projects, I would even call it. And unfortunately, it just never hit. But like that's the type of content we really want to do is make these mini series and these big like group competitions with all these personalities we have. And yeah, that's an example that it's like that was good. That sucks that people didn't watch it. And I think Johnny would say the same thing. So I'm like I said, it's not like a someone dropped the ball or anything. It's the opposite. I think that project was executed to the best it could have been, even farther. And it's more a comment on things just not hitting and the disconnect between different sort of content and throwing everything at the wall, But with that said, with throwing things at the wall, that's a credit to and a good example of us just being allowed to make whatever we wanted. I think that was a really, really cool and creatively free thing that Lumberlend did. And that kind of goes with Casey. Casey was kind of the one giving the green lights and everything. And no matter what, as long as we were like, no, this is a good idea, trust me, like I'm going to work hard for it. For example, we did like different, sports games. We did different tournaments. We did different quizzes. Like I said, Johnny kind of had this bowling thing idea and he wanted to do that. The wrestling thing was my idea and I got trusted with that. And whatever we wanted to do, it was kind of like a go for it. Because it was like, if it works, then boom, it works. The wrestling thing worked. We didn't know what else was going to work. So we were trying everything. So I really, really appreciated the creative freedom of like, oh, you want to start a show? All right, let's plan it. Oh, you want to start a podcast? All right, let's plan it. You want to do like this one-off video thing? All right, we'll like plan it and like we can shoot it and we'll get someone to edit it. And which that was really, really fun. I think something you don't see in many work environments. I mean, I haven't even talked about, again, this can be, leave questions and comments and things like that because I have a multitude of stories. It was one of the best times of my life. It was there's a moment in this where I give flowers to what Lumberlend was, but to give a little preview of that, I have a lot of, as much as like this is interesting to hear, like here's where I think financially, we could have done this better, and this is what happened, and this person bought this company, and da-da-da. That's like the interesting stuff because that's kind of the juicy stuff people want to hear, and I get that. But I also have a lot of like, ooh, I was allowed to do this. Ooh, I was allowed to do this, and that was cool. And oh my God, we got this opportunity, and we worked with these people, which is really cool. We met these people that I have. So like, I absolutely don't want this to come off as just like a negative thing, which I don't think I've been doing, but I just want to, just want to make that clear. Oh yeah. Wow. Holy shit. Where are we? Okay. All right. One thing. Speaking of whatever, I think I don't even know if it was a mistake. I think it was just an interesting move is for the media team specifically. Because no one else in the story, from my perspective, in terms of what we're talking about the media team, so it doesn't, other positions don't matter. They mattered in the company, but not in this story, whatever. They never hired on-camera personalities. They never hired content creators. They never hired people because they had history in content creation or on-camera stuff. To my knowledge, knowingly, you know what I mean? I think the two outliers there were myself and Johnny. We both had film and video and on-camera like YouTube stuff in our past and in college and before then. So we were kind of the two that like already kind of had video production experience in terms of like on-camera personality. I think Casey also being an exception there too, but he wasn't a hired person outside like us. But like, and I'm not saying this is like a good or a bad thing, because they did luck out and happen to hire like someone like Adante, where we found out he was good and funny on camera. But that's a crazy dice roll where I think there was a few people, more than a few people, that didn't love being on camera or didn't get that job to be an on-camera personality or a quote influencer or anything like that. And all of a sudden, like, you know, you get hired as like a video editor, and the next day there's a camera in your face being like, who's better, Derek Jeter or Alex Rodriguez? And there's a camera pointed 5 inches from your face, and whatever you say is going to be broadcasted to millions of people. It's a lot. It's a lot to kind of surprise somebody with and ask for, you know, and by all means, if you didn't want to be in the video, we never force anyone to be in a video. If you didn't want to answer a question or you didn't want to be in a video, like, all I just say was like, skip me, or no, and like, boom, end of discussion, that's it. But you get caught up in the moment, and you want to, you know, be a part of the group and answer this stuff, and you want to be funny, and everyone else is being funny, and, you know. I just think that was very interesting how it was just a bunch of video editors and designers and social media manager-esque people hired, and then all of a sudden it was like, all right, now be on-camera personalities. And like I said, it worked out for some, or more so, some people liked it, some people didn't. I don't know. What are you going to do? Like, for instance, I applied for Sophie's position. I applied to be a graphic designer. And when I had my interview, they kind of realized, like, oh, no, he's like 1,000%, and I am more a video editor. I was just, that was 2021. I didn't have a job. I'm throwing applications at the wall. I don't even remember applying to this one. And I didn't know what it was. So anyway, I got hired. Again, credit where credit's due. I got hired kind of with Johnny's help of him being like, oh, we need a new video editor. Like, this is our video editor guy. So I got brought in. At that time, now there was like, when I joined, it was me, Johnny in the media team, me, Johnny, Casey, Dante, Kevin. Knit tight group. And then obviously we added more people as it grows. There was a point where the media team was way too big for its britches. I'll tell you that. Is that the saying? Whatever. Regardless, like I said, they lucked out with some people being good on camera. Was that what I was saying? Hold on. Oh, point I was trying to make was, I ended up being hired for a video editor. I went in thinking I was going to edit videos of the product. I thought I was going to make like cool social media videos of like the bat mug. And thankfully, you know, first day I get my assignments and I'm editing like, you know, Big Nick listing his favorite Fast and Furious moments or whatever. And I'm like, oh, this is way better. And then now I would still have to do like, you know, edit like start, bench, cut, and like 3 baseball players I didn't know. Yeah, I don't want to go in circles. I was about to kind of get back into like, it's another comment about how the content differentiated, because like eventually the content grew past Big Nick as a personality, and now that we all kind of started being personalities. And when it started, it was all just like, oh, we're answering questions, we're being interviewed, or like not interviewed, but like we're just being part of the social media content. And then it kind of grew into like, you know, we started kind of being funny, and there were comments about like, ooh, so-and-so's funny, and oh, I can't believe so-and-so said this. And we all kind of became our own characters, I think is the best way to describe it. So with that said, we started getting involved more. And now Big Nick, where he was like the only kind of personality on there, now we're kind of it got to a point where we were all across the board pretty even in terms of like personality and character on the show. I call it a show, but the whole Lumberlend universe, whatever. And that's only to say, it was just interesting how it kind of like grew. And like I said, when you have all these different personalities, now, you know, you got me talking wrestling and the X Games. You got, you know, Sophie talking about, you know, tattoos and graphic design. You got Dante now talking about the Celtics. So it really, on its own, kind of grew past just like a baseball content company, and very much so. We were talking about, as you know, Johnny was the big movie guy. We're talking about movies every day. We're talking about TV shows. Like, we really quickly became a pop culture channel in terms of TikTok and YouTube. And again, that kind of goes all the way back to the whole thing. It's like when you're a pop culture channel and you're like, buy this baseball mug that has Dustin Pedroia's name on it. You're just not going to get a huge influx of people who are like, oh, well, I just watched a movie talking about who your top 10 favorite actors are. What do I care? I don't watch baseball. I don't care about baseball. But I think it got to a point where I think there was an effort made where we saw, I think we saw that. Might be coming across as if like it was a constant thing we didn't. So no, we absolutely knew that like, oh, there's a disconnect here, which is why the media portion became so different. And I think that was the right move. If we were going to have just a pop culture sort of media channel, I think it was absolutely the move to kind of just differentiate it and get brand deals and make them basically two separate companies within the company. With that said, on the type of media company, I think, it was a new territory for everyone. And when you're just like a sports media company, you just want to be Barstool. And that's not even just a comment on Lumberlend. That's a comment on every sports media outlet there is. It's a comment on the sports media outlet I work for. They all want to be Barstool. And that's for better or for worse. But ultimately, the business model's there. You have these different personalities talking about sports and pop culture and whatever. And Lumberlend had the office environment. And we had these like in-person interactions and like very like on the fly ideas and things like that. I just think, like I said, I'm not saying I know better because I clearly didn't. But things apparently, hindsight 2020, looking at a Barstool, if that's what they wanted to be so bad, there were different moves they could have made media-wise. And also, it goes back to the thing is like, none of us were content creators, so we're basing all of this stuff on 6 to 7 people that no one gives a shit about. You know what I mean? Like, different companies do a good job like growing in-house talent. I think we also did that. Dante, Sophie, and I have a whole YouTube channel with a whole another company that's our full-time job. And so it's successful in a lot of ways. And then, like I said, in a lot of ways what it wanted to be. I just think there was some moves Lumberlend didn't know how to make and whatever. And that's no fault to anyone. Because like I said, we were new to it all. All right, I already mentioned the wrestling stuff, blah, blah. Jesus Christ. Holy shit. Okay. I haven't even really... Well, I've been talking about TikTok. Okay. This is interesting. I kind of wish I talked about this earlier because this is interesting. And I want people to hear this part because this is interesting. Okay. So, a little insight on how people make money on TikTok. They make money primarily 2 ways now, through the creator program and through brand deals. And then, you move your audience over to merch and blah, blah. At the time of Lumberlend, the creator program didn't exist. There was what was called the Creator Fund. What the Creator Fund was a pool of money that it was one number of how much pool of money they had, and they would distribute it to those who qualified out of this one pool of money. There was no earnings really based on like ads or money per X amount of views. There was none of that. Or like kind of in a way, but there was like the money you would get was very, very small. The numbers on YouTube, I know. TikTok numbers, I have no idea. That wasn't my department. What I can say though is something I think about a lot is how potentially different things might have been, maybe not the outcome, but just different things would have been if Lumberlend existed today and was at the height of its popularity today. Because now we'd be in the creator program, and it's something that Stash Club is in. It's something that my personal TikTok is in. And basically it operates on a model that YouTube operates on, just on a little bit of a smaller scale. So YouTube, with YouTube ads, operates on a CPM. And what that is, it's cost per, I forget what the M stands for, millionth maybe? I'm not sure. But CPM is basically cost per 1,000 views. So it gives you a dollar amount, and that's how much money you get per 1,000 views. So for example, on YouTube, it's not crazy to get anywhere from like, depending on what kind of content you make and if it's family friendly and ad friendly, you get a CPM of anywhere from like $7 to $12. 12 to 15 kind of be on the higher end, obviously. The average kind of being like a 7 to 12, lower end probably like 5 or 6. Let's say you get 100,000 views. You have we'll make it easy. You have an $8 CPM, right? I'm going slow because I don't want to. Doing the math on the fly is I know these things, but I'm now at the lights on and it's pressure. I was never good at that quick math. You know those quick math games, or not the games, but like that quick math test. You know, do like the math as fucking fast as you can. Stressful. That's what I feel like now. But anyway, 100,000 views with an $8 CPM, you get $800. Yes, that's 100,000. So you get, Jesus Christ, sorry. I know this so quickly when the camera's not on, and then once the camera's on, it's like, oh, fuck numbers. Okay. So obviously you want the higher your CPM, whatever. That doesn't matter. That's YouTube. That's how YouTube works. TikTok has a much lower CPM, but it's still a CPM. And also because like content is just much shorter on there. Attention span's much shorter. And also your video has to be over a minute long for you to qualify. And there's a thing called qualified views where the person, I think, has to watch a certain percent of it or the whole thing for it to get a qualified view. So even if you get like 100,000 views or 1 million views on that video, you might only have like 400,000 qualified views on TikTok to qualify for the, to get money from it. So an average CPM on TikTok is like anywhere from 70 cents to like $1 and some change, right? On average, let's just call it $1. So think of it this way. Again, if you get 100,000 views, 100,000 qualified views on TikTok, boom, that is $100 in your pocket, right? So TikTok, it's a lot easier to get 1 million views on TikTok than it is on YouTube, which I think is why, the CPM is so much lower. But think of it this way. At Lumberland's height, we were putting across multiple TikTok channels, we were putting out 8 to 14 or 15 TikToks a day. At the time, because the landscape of TikTok and the landscape of content was so different, and like I said, this creator program thing wasn't a thing, so there was no incentive to make your videos over a minute long. In fact, the incentive was more make them shorter. Some of ours would hit a minute long if they were really long discussion or funny things, but for the most part, we almost had a rule of keep them under a minute. Keep them under 45 seconds. Cut out any fluff. Make them as quick and concise and because attention span's short, especially back then. That was the layout of TikTok, is like there was no emphasis on longer form content. It was all like 15-second, 30-second videos were our bread and butter. So also, because most of those, I'm sure some of those videos get views. It's not really how TikTok works. It's like to show you old stuff. But all those videos, all those videos have like, 6 million views or 2 million views, whatever. They have like, what am I trying to say? All these videos have all these millions of views. The majority of them, I would say 90% of them are under a minute. So one, they're not making money today. Those videos, what I mean. But two, imagine if today, because we would have changed our thinking, and once we're in that program, there wouldn't be a video we would put out today. We do the same thing on Stash Club. There's nothing we put out that's under a minute, because like, why? Every single video we would have put out on TikTok would have been over a minute. Let's assume it's still we're at our height. On average a day, we're regularly getting like 200,000, 250,000, 600,000, even, it wouldn't be shocking to have a handful of million view videos a week, right? 8 to 14 a day. So 8 to 14 a day, averaging anywhere from 200,000 to 1 million views a day. And that's for a whole week. That's for a whole month. Imagine how much money would be made on TikTok. Again, I'm not saying things would have been different. I'm not saying it would have saved the company or nothing. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying strictly, it'd be a lot of money. It'd be a lot of money made. I think about that a lot. It would it was before, I don't even want to say Lumberland was before its time, so I do want to give credit. And I said this on like whatever my, exit interview, whatever you want to call it. I was like, it was cool to be part of what I truly believe was a really groundbreaking and pioneering entity in the new landscape of like short form content and just media in general and just the TikTok landscape. Like there was nothing at the time. There was nothing that like was like it on TikTok. I think you see some stuff now, but I don't know. It would have been really interesting, and money would have been a lot different to look at with this new creator program. But we were just too early. That's really it was timing didn't work out. The universe, did its thing. Blah blah. All right, we're getting toward the end of it here. And again, there can be a separate podcast episode telling about like, funny stories and the heights and remember this thing and da-da-da. But this is kind of just answering the question that's in the thing. So to give you a little insight of the day, I would say, and this shouldn't come to any surprise, just the way I've been talking about like, different monetization things and the performance of, videos and the content, da-da. I would say there was a solid 2 to 3 month time where we all were like, for a while we were all like, this can't last forever, right? Like this job is crazy. We just make silly YouTube videos of whatever we want and they don't make money. Like this can't last forever, right? So then there was kind of that thought within the last year. And I'd say the last 2 to 3 months before we all got let go, there was kind of like it can probably happen any day now. It was just a feeling. There was nothing specific, but there was just a feeling of like, ooh, it feels like we're maybe getting close to the end here. And it turns out we were right. And again, when there's only 5 to 7 on a team, everyone sees everything. You all see the performance. It's not like anything's hidden. Even the people down, the whole company was very, which I appreciated this for, was pretty open in terms of everything. And like everyone knew everything. So it's like, it would have been kind of tough to hide the fact that maybe like some things weren't going well and, things were getting a little shaky. Then one day, kind of in the middle of the day, I don't know if the decision was made that day. I have no idea. But all of a sudden, we were all just told, hey, this is it. And I remember we all just kind of stopped work and all just kind of looked at each other. And it wasn't, like I said, because of the precursor of like, it's 2 to 3 months of like kind of seeing us going downhill. I would say it wasn't shocking, but it was still unexpected, if that makes sense. So we knew it was coming, but like obviously when you lose your job like that and you lose your job, it's it's hard to not be like, taken aback a little bit. And we all kind of to give you a look into the rest of that day, we used the rest of that day and just kind of talked and said our goodbyes and hey, good luck, and I think you should do this and you should do this, and I don't know, just reflecting, and it was an interesting day. It really was. With that said, I want to give flowers to Casey, because he was the leader. He was the head of the media team. It was at a point where I became the YouTube manager, so I was kind of like, in terms of YouTube and content stuff, I was like right. It was kind of me and him in terms of like decision making and stuff like. I think that's fair to say. Not so much for me on TikTok. TikTok was Johnny, but YouTube it was kind of me running it, but Casey had my back on it, and he was the one kind of giving green lights and da da da. I don't think he gets enough credit for his efforts and what he did there and so on and so forth. With that said, I do want to make it clear, naturally in a working relationship, I want to emphasize that in a working relationship, I didn't always agree with every decision that was made. I didn't always agree with different moves or different decisions or whatever. and again, if you ever worked in a professional kind of office environment or anything of the sort, even just any sort of collaborative effort, it doesn't even need to be an office, any sort of collaborative job or effort in general, you kind of know that, like, you kind of understand there's like just professional disagreements and decisions, and that's fine. But what I will say about that is he did always have like the best interest of the content in mind. Yeah. Another thing is he, which I give him the most credit for, is he was always the middleman between the media team and the business people. So whenever maybe, something didn't go right, or there was some reprimanding or tough talks to give out, Casey was always that, that meme of the soldier taking the bullets of the sleeping child. He was always kind of in front of us, and then he would relay information and whatever. But I'll tell you, he took a good amount of bullets for the team as a whole. And then last thing I'll say about Case, I'm not trying to like signal people out here, but I think it was very commendable, the character he chose to play on a daily basis. And so especially, this kind of goes back to how the media kind of started out with it being like him and Big Nick. The relationship between him and Big Nick was always like this loud macho guy, and then there was Big Nick. I'm kidding. It was right there. No, it was always this like loud, stronger guy, and then this like scrawny kind of aloof. I think aloof is the best word I can describe of Casey, of the character Casey. And I want to stress that enough. It was a character he was playing. He's a silly dude. He's on the Pat McAfee show. You see him sometimes on the Pat McAfee show. He's a silly guy. Sometimes he's, sometimes he says something silly, but ultimately, he played up that character and that part of his personality times 100 for the camera. And every single day, it was him getting screamed at, called an idiot by the other character, which I want to emphasize that, the other character of Big Nick. Both these characters were their personalities turned up to 100 for the camera. They didn't actually hate each other. I think that's obvious, but, whatever. But Casey was always the punching bag. He was always played the role of letting others make fun of him and being the stupid guy, stupid character, and you gotta have some, I don't know whether it's thick skin or what it is, but like to be that character in every video and to have all these comments being like, oh, of course Casey did this and classic Casey and da-da. I wouldn't have been able to handle it. I know myself, and that's a lot, man. For 2.5 million followers to put yourself out there like that and to be the butt of the joke and the punching bag every day. And he knowingly did it for the sake of, because he knew it was funny. He knew people could bounce off him comedically, and he knew what he was doing. And so I don't think he gets enough credit for that, for just being voluntarily being the butt of the joke, and that kind of allowed people to shine around him. Once we all kind of got into the mode of like, ooh, we're all gonna be personalities here. We're all gonna kind of be characters here. Like I said, in front of that massive audience that we had, that's crazy. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. We're getting toward the end of it here. Let's really fast forward. As noted in the Dugout Mugs video, I can confirm there was an effort made by people at Dugout Mugs to kind of bring some of the Lumberland crew back together who lost their jobs. Obviously, some people didn't. Some people went different ways, like Dante and I, and then bringing on Sophie. Obviously went with clutch points and started fresh. And we did have a discussion, and ultimately just we didn't come to a business decision, but we just kind of we left just on like a virtual handshake of just like okay, we couldn't meet anywhere, but we appreciate each other's time, and an effort was made. Apparently, I think some of the guys did some stuff virtually, and especially after the pandemic, the virtual stuff never works. It just never caught its legs. I mean, I don't even care to super comment on that. It doesn't really matter. But point being is there was some effort made by Dugout Mugs to, I don't want rectify isn't the word. Rectify is not the word. But I don't know, get some of the old spark back. You know what I mean? But nothing really worked. Like I said, just the virtual stuff and people moving on, and when you at the end of the day, that was a job for us. That was a salaried 9 to 5 or technically 7 to 3. We got up fucking early. And you lose your job just because our job was in the public eye and our job was in front of 2.5 million people on TikTok. It was still a job. We lost that job, and everyone still needed to find new jobs and to pay the bills and things like that. And like I said, most people were not interested in being influencers or content creators. So like a lot of people, that job ended and they're not content creators. They don't make stuff, and that's fine. It's some people did, like, Dante, Sophie, and I. Johnny does stuff on TikTok. Joey's moved on to his own podcast. I think Big Nick was doing his own TikTok for a while. I haven't seen that pop up. Shout out the interns we had. I want to leave on a positive note. I think a lot of this is like, it comes off as negative in the sense of, people lost their jobs and a business went under, and there was an emphasis on like, here's why things didn't work in this conversation. Here's why things didn't work, and here's some behind the scenes stuff of this video did this. But to end on a positive note, Lumberland, I owe a lot. One could say almost everything to my time at Lumberland. There'd be no Stash Club Wrestling without Lumberland or Mustache Bros. It's where I got my start. I've always been interested in I made music. I was making music in high school, so like I was making content, and I've always made YouTube videos. So, like I was doing what I got hired to do at Lumberland unknowingly, forever. And I don't think we got into the wrestling stuff like a year in or something like that. But anyway, it gave me the career, or it gave me the launch pad to get the career I have today. Like I said, I wouldn't know Dante and Sophie or any of the other people, obviously, without Lumberland. And with that, we are now with Clutch Points and Stash Club. But that wouldn't have happened without the basis of the success we had with it at Lumberland, and forming Mustache Bros and learning through the whole journey there, whether it's wrestling stuff or not, because it took the whole journey to get here. So I do want to leave on a note that I am very appreciative. So some of my favorite times. Like I said, maybe next episode, or if people have questions, I would love to talk about some silly stories and different positives and different things I learned and different moments. So like I said, this was very like this didn't work and and. But ultimately, it was one of my favorite times in my life, and I was sad when it was over. But I can appreciate that. Like I said, it gave me the building blocks, and it gave me a platform, and I think that's a good note to leave on. I don't know if I articulated that last part well, but I hope it wasn't concise. I know that, but I hope that answered some questions. I hope that gave people some insight into the inside of what was going on at the company during the time. I feel like I answered things adequately. Thank you for joining me. This has been kind of stubborn. Please follow me on everything. I'm posting clips on TikTok, Raspy Taylor on TikTok, Raspy Taylor on Instagram, Raspy Taylor on Twitter or X. I'm trying to use that less, but still follow me there. Closing on 10K followers on some stuff. This episode kind of wore me down. It's hot in here. And it's a lot. That was a lot to go over. I'm tired. I'm going to go edit this and put this up. I'm going on. I do this every episode. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe. Please like. Leave your comments. Leave your questions. Leave everything. And I'll see you next week, episode 4. Wow. All right. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time. Bye.